Hello and welcome to Pabbly Connect. So this video is going to be a complete guide on how to integrate Auth 1.0 based applications inside Pabbly Connect. Now to do so, you just require two basic things. First one is the API doc of the application which you want to integrate. And the second thing is a Pabbly Connect account. So let's begin. So as you can see here, we have reached to the front-end dashboard of Pabbly Connect. Now to access the backend development platform, you just have to go to the URL section, and after that, after connect.pabbly.com, here we have to enter /app. And guys, now you can see that we have reached to the backend development platform of Pabbly Connect. Now to start integrating your application, just click on this create new app button and give your application a name. And then just click on save. So in this video guys, just for a reference, we are going to have a look at how we have integrated Tumblr inside Pabbly Connect. So Tumblr is an application which supports Auth 1.0 based authentication. So let's have a look on Tumblr. So this is the app which we have integrated, Tumblr clone. So guys, here after naming your application, now to start integrating it, the first step is to enter some basic details of the application which you want to integrate. Likewise, after naming your application, the next thing which we have to enter is the description of the app which you want to integrate. That means what does this application do? Then we have an option to upload the logo. So here guys, you can upload the logo of the application and the logo size should be 64 x 64 inch pixel. After it comes one of the most important things, and that is the auth type. So in this video, we are going to have a look on Auth 1.0. So we have referred to the API doc of Tumblr and we found it supports Auth 1.0 based authentication. So that's why here out of all of these auth types in Pabbly Connect, we have selected Auth 1.0. After selecting Auth 1.0, Pabbly Connect gave us the redirect URL, and this is it. Now specifically in Tumblr guys, what you have to do, you have to access the developers platform of Tumblr and then you have to create an app inside that developers platform so that you can access Tumblr using APIs. So here guys, you can basically refer to the API doc of the Tumblr and find all the necessary details over there as well. After that, you will get the authorized URL, request token URL and access token URL which are required to make the authentication. Then after creating the application from Tumblr's developer platform, you will get the consumer key and consumer secret of the application which you have created. So enter this consumer key and consumer secret over here. Then we all know that Auth 1.0 uses HMAC SHA1 as a signature method. So that's why here we have selected it. After this, here you can see that we have selected the option of received app auth parameter. And here you can see we have created two different parameters. First one is auth access token and second one is auth token secret. Now guys, using all of these details which we have entered over here like authorized URL, request token URL, access token URL, consumer key and the consumer secret of the app which we are creating. Using all of these details, we are going to basically issue a request token to Tumblr that we want to authenticate or connect. Then after that, Tumblr will ask us for the authorization in the front end while actually making this connection using Auth 1.0. And once the user authenticates, once the user allows it, then using a permanent token, we will get a permanent access token, the auth access token and auth token secret from Tumblr, which will be used to make the connection between Tumblr and Pabbly Connect and make the API calls and request the data. So in this way, guys, Auth 1.0 completely works. So here we have created these two fields of auth access token and auth token secret. Now guys, if you have any doubt regarding this, that what are the parameters you want to create, if you want to add more than two parameters, you can just click on this plus button and add multiple parameters according to your choice. So you can actually refer to the API doc of your application which you are integrating and you will find all of these details over there. After selecting the auth type, just click on save and then we will see that the step 1 of integrating an app inside Pabbly Connect is completed. We have successfully entered some basic details of the application which we wanted to integrate. After this, let's move to step 2 and start creating some triggers. So from the left side, we will go to triggers section. And after that, just click on this create trigger button and give your trigger event a name. And then just click on save. So right now you can see we have created 4 triggers for Tumblr in Pabbly Connect. First one is the new like post, new post in dashboard, new post in my blog, and new tag post. So let's have a look on this trigger named as new like post. So basically what we have to do after naming your trigger event, we have to enter some basic details of the trigger as well, like the name of the trigger event, the description of the trigger event, that what does this trigger event do. So what this trigger event do, it will trigger when you like a new post in your Tumblr account. Then after that, here it is asking us for the video tutorial URL. Now guys, if you have any kind of video tutorial on how does this trigger event works inside Pabbly Connect or how a user can use it, you have an option to add those video tutorial URLs over here as well. After that, it is asking us trigger type, and this is quite important. So in the drop down below, we will see Pabbly Connect offers three different types of triggers. First one is webhook setup by instruction. So in this case, guys, Pabbly Connect will give a webhook URL to the user, and the user can actually copy that webhook URL from Pabbly Connect and enter it into your application. So if you allow your users to directly enter or manually enter the webhook URL into your application for a particular event, then you can use this as a trigger type. If you don't allow your users to manually enter the webhook URL, but you support webhook URLs or setting up webhook URLs by API request, you can use the second trigger type, that is webhook setup by API request. And if your application does not have webhooks, you can select this third type of trigger, that is polling to check new data. In this case, guys, at a regular time interval, Pabbly Connect will poll the required data from your application. So Tumblr does not have webhooks, that's why we have created a polling based trigger over here. After selecting the trigger type, if you select polling, it will ask us for the polling speed. So by default right now in the dropdown you can see 8 hours is the polling time. This means every 8 hours, Pabbly Connect will go to Tumblr and pull some required data from Tumblr over here. So it will be keep on pulling the data every 8 hours. Now it is asking us trigger response type. So we want to get a simple response. That's why we have selected simple over here from the dropdown. Now after all of this, if you want to give some kind of important help text or important information or some kind of disclaimer to the user who is using this trigger event of your application inside Pabbly Connect, you can enter that important help text over here. And then just click on save. So in this way guys, we have successfully entered some basic details of the trigger event which we want to integrate. Now, after creating the trigger event, entering some basic details, we have to actually make the API configuration of this trigger event. So the first thing it asks us is the HTTP method. So in the dropdown below, we can see all the 5 HTTP methods over here. And you can select your HTTP method according to your API endpoint. Now, the second thing it asks us is API endpoint URL. So what is the API endpoint URL for this particular trigger which you are trying to build? You have to enter the API endpoint over here. After that, after entering the API endpoint, we have to select the authentication. So in the dropdown below, we can see all the authentication type. So we will be selecting OAuth 1.0 from the dropdown. And after selecting the authentication, guys, what we have to do while integrating an app, you have to actually connect your account of the application, for example, of Tumblr inside Pabbly Connect. So in the first step, guys, while entering some basic details of the application, we have entered all the authentication details as well. So now what we have to do while building some triggers or actions, we have to actually make the connection and then we have to get this response for this particular trigger using this API endpoint. So just click on this connect button over here, enter some details of your account, for example, Tumblr account, and log into it. And after that, just connect your account over here. Now guys, you don't have to worry about your account. In the runtime guys, after integrating the application and when you live your application on Pabbly Connect platform, this account details will be replaced by the account details or the account credentials of the user who is using your application in the front end. So from the front end guys, whatever account or whatever user details or whatever credentials the user will be entering, these credentials or authentication details will be replaced by them in the runtime. After connecting your account guys, if your API endpoint, if the application or API endpoint requires some kind of parameters, header data or some kind of raw JSON body, you can select it and add those details over here as well. Right now, this endpoint of Tumblr does not require anything like that. We have referred to the Tumblr's API doc. So that's why we have clicked on save and then we clicked on send test request. After clicking on send test request, here we have received some response from Tumblr. So guys, here in this response, we will see all the posts which we have liked on our Tumblr account can be seen over here. We have received an error response and in this array, guys, we can see the details of all the posts over here. Now guys, what we have to do, first we have to convert this response from array format to a simpler format so that one by one we can start processing this response. So this response in array is basically not a simple response for sure. So that is why in the next step, here we have a step by default that is simplify array response. And here in the drop down below, you can see we have the same response which we have received in array format. So response liked underscore post. This was the response. This was the data which we have received in array from Tumblr after making this API call of this API endpoint. We have basically selected the same response over here in map array key. And then when we click on send test request in response over here in this step, we will see that the response from array format is now converted into simpler format. So in the simpler format, we have collectively received all the data of all the liked posts from our Tumblr account. But guys, here we can see that this array of data which we have received from liked posts from Tumblr, this is the complete data of all the posts which we have liked till now. But out of all of this data, we just want to get the data, or we just want to retrieve or get the details of the most recently liked post. Like while setting up this trigger type, while selecting this trigger type, we have added a polling speed of 8 hours. Means every 8 hours, it will poll the data. It will get the data of new liked posts from Tumblr inside Pabbly Connect. But I just want the data of last 8 hours only. I just don't want all the old data over here. Just don't want all the posts which I have liked till now over here. I just want the data of the post which we have liked in past 8 hours. Now guys, what we have to do so, we have to basically sort this data, this collective data which we have received over here. We have to basically segregate the data of past 8 hours. Now, how we can do this? So after simplifying our error response, the last step which we have over here is new record order settings. So here guys, in new record order settings, we can basically select the order, that in which order and what kind of data which we want to get. So here in unique order record, in the drop down below, we can see all the responses which we have received in simple format. We can see a list of all the responses over here in this drop down. And out of all of these responses, we have selected the response of this ID. So this is the unique record ID. This means this ID will be a different ID. This response, this value will be a unique value, a different value for every new response, for every new post we like on Tumblr. So for every new like post, this response will be a different response. That's why we have selected this. And here after that, it is asking us sorting order. And we have two different types of sorting order. First one is by position, either from top or from bottom. And second one is by field. So here in the sorting order, we will select the same field over here, same response of ID over here. So here guys, what you have to do, you have to actually select the response, that on the basis of which response we want to sort this data, on what basis we will be sorting this data from top to bottom, from bottom to top, or on the sequence of a particular response. So that's why we have selected this ID, because I want that the latest ID, the response with the latest ID should be received at the most recent time over here in Pabbly Connect. So in this way, in new record setting, we are telling Pabbly Connect that using this API call, we have received a complete data of all the like posts from Tumblr. But we want to extract the data of last 8 hours, the recent response. We just want to get the data of recent response, and we want to ignore the rest of the data. So here we have told that how we will identify which data, which response is a unique response. So we, in the unique record ID, we have selected the like ID, the ID in the response which we have received. This means using this ID, it will identify this response is a unique response. And in sorting order by field, we have again selected the ID over here. So in this way, it will only get the data of last 8 hours. It will only get the responses of last 8 hours or the most recent or latest response over here. So after setting up new record order setting, guys, we have successfully created this trigger. Just click on save in all the steps, and we have successfully built this trigger inside Pabbly Connect. So using this trigger, whenever we will like a new post in Tumblr, we will get the details or the data of that newly liked post inside Pabbly Connect every 8 hours. So it is a polling based trigger. So Pabbly Connect will poll the data of new liked post every 8 hours from Tumblr. Now, after setting up this trigger, after building this trigger, let's check this trigger once in front end. So we will go to our Pabbly Connect's dashboard. And after that, let's create a workflow over here and give this workflow a name. For example, demo. Now, after this, here in this workflow, in trigger window in choose app, let's search for Tumblr clone private. So this was the same application on which we were working right now, Tumblr clone. We have selected the same app, and in trigger event from the drop down, select new like post, the same trigger event. Click on connect and select add new connection. Now here guys, in the front end, as I told you, the authorization details, the connection details or the credentials of the Tumblr account which we have entered in the backend while integrating the application, it will be replaced by the details of the user who is using it in the front end. Let's click on this connect with Tumblr button. Let me enter the credentials of my Tumblr account. Okay, so here I have entered the credentials of my Tumblr account. Let's click on login. And guys, as I told you, it is now asking me for the authorization. So let's click on allow. And then we will see that our Tumblr account gets connected with Pabbly Connect in the front end as well. And the connection is successful. After making this connection, let's hit on save and send test request. And when we hit on save and send test request, guys, here in response, we will get the response or the details of the most recent, the most latest post which we have liked on our Tumblr account. So because we have created this trigger in such a way, guys, that we get the recent response over here first. So that's why we have received the response of the most recent post which we have liked in our Tumblr account over here. So in this way, we have checked that the trigger which we have built over here while integrating this app is working perfectly fine. Now after this, let's move to our next step and start building some actions. So from the left side, we will click on this actions option over here. Now here guys, on the left side, you can see there are several actions which we have already created. And out of all of these actions guys, the action on which we are going to have a look is named as create text posts. So this is a very simple action over here. Now here guys, in this action, the first thing what we have to do is the same. We have to enter some basic details. Now to create a new action, just click on this create new action button, give this action event a name and click on save. Then just enter basic details of the action, like what is the name of this action event, the description. If you have a video tutorial, enter the URL of that video tutorial over here as well. Enter some important help text if you have, and then select the action response type and just click on save. After all of this, when we will scroll down, you will see here is the field, here's the step named as inbuilt action details. Now, what is this inbuilt action? We will have a look on this in a couple of minutes later, guys. But first, we will scroll down and we will have this action event API configuration. Now, at this step, we have to actually set up the API configuration of the action event which we are trying to create. So we have selected the HTTP method and entered the API endpoint. And to get the API endpoint, we have referred to the API doc of Tumblr. Then we have selected request body type. So in the drop down below, we can see all the different body types over here. We have selected JSON over here. And we don't want to wrap this text or wrap this API call in array. That's why we have selected no. Now guys, to actually make this API endpoint call, we have to basically send some kind of parameters. So if your application requires to get some kind of headers with every action event, every API call, just select this field and enter those header text over here. And if you want to configure them, just click on this settings option in front of it and you can configure the header details over here as well. If you want to add multiple headers, just click on this add new header button and you can keep on adding header fields over here. So right now Tumblr does not require any kind of headers, so that's why we have not selected it. But after that, here you can see that we have added some kind of set body queries or path parameters. So these are some parameters, some fields. And using these parameters of fields, we are taking some data in the front end from the user. And using that data, we will be going to create a new post in Tumblr. So we are setting up this action to create a new text post. Now to create this text post in Tumblr, we want to get some data like the title, the body of the post which we are trying to create, what are tags, slugs, and all of those things. So we have received all of these details, all of these parameters in the API doc. So we have created different parameters, different fields over here. So the first parameter which we have created is blog identifier. So we have just clicked on this plus button of add new parameter and given this parameter a name. Now guys, after creating this parameter, we have to configure this parameter as well. For that, we have clicked on the settings icon in front of it. And then here we have the field of configure this blog identifier field details. So here we have given this field a name, a label name. So whatever label name you will give to this field, this parameter over here, the same name will be reflected in the front end. After that, here you can see that I have selected a dynamic dropdown, that the field, the label which we are creating is a dynamic dropdown. And here in dynamic dropdown, we have added some kind of text over here. Now guys, what it is, to create a new text post, we have to select that in which blog in our Tumblr account we want to create this new text post in. And we have to basically show the list of all the blogs which a user has in their Tumblr account over here in this new field. So for that guys, we have to first get the complete data, a complete list of all the blogs from the user's Tumblr account in the backend. And then we have to show that list in the front end. so the user can select the block. Now to get those lists or to add those lists in this action event in the backend, we have added this inbuilt action over here. So using this inbuilt action, every time a user will select this action event, automatically after making the connection, Pabbly Connect in the backend will get the data of all the blocks, a list of all the blocks from Tumblr, and show that list over here in this field in the front end. Now guys, to do so, we have to basically first create this inbuilt action as well. Now how you can create this inbuilt action? For that, from the left side, go to this inbuilt action section. And after that, just click on this create new inbuilt action button, enter some basic details of this inbuilt action, like this inbuilt action name, description, and inbuilt action type. So here we have three different types of inbuilt actions: dropdown and custom fields, multi-step, and app auth validator. So the inbuilt action which we have created of get user info, it is a dropdown and custom field. After entering some basic details, we have to set up the API configuration of this inbuilt action. So we have selected the HTTP method, and then we have entered the API endpoint URL. By calling which endpoint, by making which API call, we will get the complete details of this user from Tumblr. Then we have selected the authentication. We have connected once again as we have done in triggers. Now in the same way what we have done while setting up triggers, we have to connect our Tumblr account once while integrating. We have to connect our account from the application which we are integrating in Pabbly Connect. And now after making the connection, just click on save and send test request. And in response, we will get the complete details of the user from Tumblr over here. So whatever API endpoint you have entered, you have received a response for that. And in this response, guys, you will get the complete data of a user. So by making this API call, we have received complete data of the user. And in the same response, guys, we will get the data of blogs as well. So using this response, using this API call, we will get a complete list of all the blogs, and then the user can select that from in which blog from their Tumblr account they want to create a new post. So in this way, you can set up inbuilt actions. If you want, you can also create multiple inbuilt actions for multiple events. So after learning how to create inbuilt action, let's get back to our action over here on which we were working. So let's get back to action section, create text post. That was our action event. And after that, here we have added this inbuilt action of get user info. Click on save. And after adding this inbuilt action, we can see the responses which we have captured while creating that inbuilt action. Here guys, in blog identifier, just click on this settings option, the configuration section. And after selecting that this field, this label is a dynamic dropdown. Here in this dropdown, in this option label dropdown, we can see that we have a complete list of all the responses of that inbuilt action which we have created. So after creating inbuilt action, we have received some response. And here in the dropdown, we can see all the responses over here. So we want that the response of blog title, the response of the blog name should be shown to the user in the front end. So what data you have to show in the front end, you have to select that data in this option label. So after selecting dynamic dropdown, what is the data or in what format you want to show the data in front end? You have to select that data from this inbuilt action in this option label. And what is the data for this particular text? That after selecting this name, like for example, we are showing the name of the blog in the front end. Then after showing this blog name, what is the value that is supposed to be passed in API call, in API endpoint? We have to select that value over here in option value. So from the drop down below, here you can see that I have selected the blog name, user blog name and user blog title. So we are showing the blog title to the front end to the user, and whatever title the user selects in from this drop down in the front end while making the integration, the same response. So the blog name for the same title will be sent to the API call as well. After that, it is asking us field type. So in the drop down below, we have two different types of fields, select field and multi-select field. So this is a select field. A user can only select one drop down, one blog at a time. That's why we have selected this. Then is this field required? Yes, this selecting the blog is very much important. The fields are required or not, you can refer to the API doc to know this. After this, just enter some basic details like the help text and other details as well over here and click on save. So in this way, we have configured a parameter. Follow the same process for other parameters as well. Like we have the second parameter of the title, that the post which we are creating using this field, we will get the title for that post. Just click on this configure button, and we don't want to show any kind of existing data to the user. That's why we have created this field, this label as string. So in this field, guys, in this parameter, we will be getting the title of the new post which we are creating in Tumblr from the user. Just enter some help text and basic details and click on save. Follow the same process of configuring for other fields as well. And after configuring all of those fields, we have a next thing that is request body JSON. So if your application requires some raw JSON body with the API call, you can enter it, but if not, you can ignore it. So right now, this API endpoint of Tumblr required some raw JSON body. So that's why we have created a raw JSON body over here. And after creating the raw JSON body, just click on save. After clicking on save, we will see guys, the action event which we are creating is completed. We have successfully built this action event of create text post. Now after building this action event, just check this action event in the front end. We will go to our workflow, come to our action window and search for our application, Tumblr clone private. So this was the application on which we are having a look. In the drop down below from action event, let's select this action event of create text post. Now let's connect my Tumblr account. Just click on connect. In the trigger step, we have already made the connection. So right now in this step, I'm using my old existing connection. Just click on save. And yes guys, here you can see that in blog section in the drop down, right now I have only one blog in my Tumblr account. So that's why it has automatically shown the name of that blog over here in the front end. Then after blog, we have created some other fields, some other parameters as well. And we can see all of those parameters as input fields in the front end. Like we have the field of title. Then after title, we had the field of body of the post, which we want to create. So we have the title, we have the content. Then we have the format, that in which format we want to create this post. Then we have a field for tags, custom URL, native inline images, and status. So here we have the fields for same. So whatever parameters you are creating over here, they will be reflected as input fields in the front end to the user in Pabbly Connect. So in this way, the user can enter their details and set up their automation to create new posts. So as you saw that, you can follow the same process to create multiple triggers and actions of your application which you are integrating inside Pabbly Connect. After creating this action, let's test this action once as well. So let me give a title, for example, test post. This is the title of the post, content. We are just testing. Let's select the format as HTML format. Let's not add a tag or custom URL. Just click on save and send test request. And as the user clicks on save and send test request, the workflow is created, this action event is set up, and we have received a response that with these details, a new post, a new text post is been shared on my Tumblr account. That too in this particular blog which we have selected. This means the action event which we have created is working perfectly fine. Now guys, if you are directly from the integration team of the app which you are integrating, you can basically integrate this application, create multiple triggers and action as much as you want for your application, and then submit this app for approval. And once this app got approved by the Pabbly Connect team, this app will be publicly accessible, publicly available to other users as well on the Pabbly Connect platform. And if you're not from the app integration team, but somehow you have integrated an app inside Pabbly Connect, you can share this app with other users as well, that too privately. Now to share this application, just go to this sharing section and share this application with other users as well. So guys, I hope this video was helpful to you. If you have any kind of doubts or queries, you can write us in the comment box below. So this is it for today's video guys. Thank you. Have a great day.